Mute. Let's see. Mute all.
All right, peace family. Welcome back to another episode of the Health Class You Never Had, hosted by the Collective Health Initiative, aka the CHI. We are glad to be here with you again to discuss part 2 of our men's health discussion here on the Health Class You Never Had. I am Dr. Yu, aka Yuma Bellamy, and I am an herbalist, holistic wellness consultant, holistic nutritionist. On the broadcast with us today, we have Master Reshep. Peace, Master Reshep.
Death and wholeness to all. Peace. It's a joy and a pleasure to be here. Right on, right on.
Master Reshep is our Kemetic metaphysical warrior priest. We have Brother Manifest Ra. Peace, Brother Manifest Ra.
He's on mute.
He's on mute. Okay, well, we'll move on until I get situated. We have oh yeah, okay, Manifest, there you go.
Okay, got you. Sorry about the tech difficulties, but it's a pleasure to be here, Dr. Yu, amongst the brothers. And I'm looking forward to sharing some insights and receiving some insights as well. So thank you so much for organizing this, and continue the great work with the Chief.
Thank you. Manifest Ra is the co-founder of the Sage Men. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the broadcast. He also works a lot with stress management and Qigong. So we'll probably touch a little bit on that as well during the broadcast. We have Breathmaster Aaron Motley. Peace, brother Aaron Motley.
Peace, Dr. Yu. How the brothers doing today? And thank you again for convening this meeting. It's very important and timely. With all time, we are always in need of insights into better health, self-health, and walking in our divinity. So thank you. And hi to all the brothers on the call. And one slight correction, Manifest is the founder of the Sage Men.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for the correction.
Hey, it's nothing like a good brother bringing in the breath to correct us all.
Yes, indeed. So Breathmaster Aaron Motley, we call him Breathmaster because he is a master of the breath and breathing techniques to optimize your overall health and wellness. He does a lot of work with educating people on practical solutions for their health improvement. He also does, some farming. When his land has some wonderful things growing out there, he gave us the pleasure of picking some mint and some lemon balm last time we were by there. So thank you for that. And I'm sure, and also I have to mention, I forgot to mention the last broadcast. He also has a book. The book is called The Obesity Myth. You're not overweight, you're overwaste. So it's talking about how the waste buildup in the body is what contributes to a lot of the weight, the belly fat, and things like that we tend to experience, and the need to address that. That is a very, very powerful book. Check that out. We'll have the full title and everything in the comments. Definitely check that book out. So also on the line with us today, we have Brother DeAndre Dukes. I'm going to ask you to just give a brief intro to yourself as well.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is DeAndre Dukes. Born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. Came up as a musician, learning West African percussion. And in recent years, I've been traveling to Mali, West Africa for study, and coming back and sharing it with the youth in both Baltimore and DC. That's the sum of what I do with my time, practicing music and getting the youth connected with Africa, so that way they can understand their identity before our experience here in America.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brother DeAndre, for joining us today. Wonderful, wonderful musician. He does some great work up there in Baltimore, and we have Brother Orrin Howard. Peace, Brother Orrin Howard. Can you introduce yourself for us?
Peace, Dr. Yu and all the good brethren. My name is Orrin Howard. I'm coming humbly today as a student to hear the good lessons that y'all have. I'm a therapist, mental health therapist, and I'm a professor in a university at Maryland. And so I do a lot of work around Baltimore City and the District of Columbia. And so I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for joining us, Brother Orrin. And just to give a quick shout out to our other Chi members who are not on the live broadcast with us today for this particular episode. We have Sister Safan Pickett, who's on the boards. Peace to you. She's our Afro-Indigenous agriculturalist. We like to call her our bringer of life, so she has a farm, good farms down in Accokeek, Maryland, where she is growing vegetables and herbs and things of that nature, and is organizing some things in terms of bringing organic produce, good quality organic produce to the community. We have Ketnu Nefer. Oh, Safan Pickett also has her website, royalreset.com. Royal Reset is the name of her wellness company. We also have Ketnu Nefer of A Soulful Touch Wellness LLC. She's our women's wellness specialist and massage therapist. Peace to you as well. And also my partner. We have Mama Elaine Williams, our breathologist and Kemetic Yogini. We have Precious Mother Love, our sacred arts curator and owner of Love Plus Art equals wellness. You can check her out at her website, loveplusartequalswellness.com as well. We have Clarice Manning, our natural body care specialist and owner operator of Rooted in Nature. She has her own body care line. Peace to you as well. And Precious Porter of Precious LLC, our behavioral therapist, crisis intervention specialist, and advocate against domestic abuse. So peace to you as well. Thank you to everybody who is part of the Chief for all of the wonderful work that you do and contributions that you make. So now going forward, let's jump into some of these topics. You know, and one of the things that I love about having these brothers on here is that these are people who are not necessarily, very super versed necessarily in the physical aspect of holistic wellness. But at the same time, they're in the community, they're doing work with men in the community especially. And, what I would like to pose is the question of, as a Black man in society today, what are some of the major health concerns that you see in terms of the people that you come into contact with? You know, and especially Brother DeAndre, who I have a more personal relationship with, and he's in his 20s. So, I love that he's joining us today because he's a representation of the young Black men coming out of the urban area of Baltimore. So I'm going to start with DeAndre, then I'm going to move to Brother Orrin Howard.
Yes, I think, well, I know one of the number one concerns for people in my generation is the being able to access better quality foods. Because the thing is, when you live in an area, especially in Baltimore, that's poor, any city, where there's a large population of Black people, where you live, there are not many good quality health options as far as food is concerned. So what you can afford and your location has everything to do with what you're eating. So I think the thing that we don't know is how to get access to higher quality foods and be able to afford it.
All right, I'm going to bring that over to Breathmaster, because Breathmaster always has a good insight on how to work around things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Breathmaster, how would you respond to that?
First of all, thank you, brother, for joining us. Well, there are certain foods that we need to focus on. And when you narrow the focus of the foods, you find sources that have those particular food items. So things that are going to cleanse the gut, things like cabbage, things like your greens and what have you. A lot of times you can find good sources for those. Now, I don't know exactly how stores are spread out in your area,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the general stores that we have, grocery stores like Safeway, Giant, or even Aldi's, they have a large organic section now. And from my perspective, the primary space we need to go into in any store is the produce department.
Mm-hmm.
So find the produce department that has the best quality foods, preferably organic. If you can't get organic, you got to get something. So stick with the greens, stick with the root vegetables, stick with the pumpkins, the squashes, and things like that are going to continually cleanse the body and nourish the body. And then you want to back that up with a simple supplement. If you can't get sea moss, then you get you a kelp. The kelp capsules, they have the full spectrum minerals for the most part that help to balance everything. So keeping the gut clean and mineralizing the body are paramount. If you can't get any herbs or anything like that, those are the two primary things you want to focus on. So find the stores that provide those things, or the CSAs, or your local growers. I know there's an avid young urban farming community in Baltimore. So connect with those people and use those people as those people in those locations as your resources. If you have an international store, a lot of the international stores have a lot of these things on hand. So it's just a lot that you can find in a small space and what have you. You just have to make sure that you're consistent with gathering those things, and that will drive the store owner to get those things and have them more readily available, because what is in demand is in the store is what they're going to stock.
Okay. I think that, yeah, that helps a lot. I think the second part of what I ask is, yeah, how do we get the community to understand that? Because I think that what does it look like for the same conversation to be had with the multitude of families who have generationally been eating macaroni and cheese and fried chicken and oodles of noodles, and their understanding of food is very limited. For me, I can share it with with those in my reach, and I know that helps. But how do we have that same health conversation on a large scale? What does that look like? Reaching out to the community and having them understand what to eat, where to find it, and how to get the stores to, demanding that more of those things be available on a large scale.
If I may, again, narrow the focus. You want to focus on foods that are going to nourish and cleanse. The greens and the cabbage, you got to meet people where they are. Black folks like greens, they like cabbage, so meet them where they are. Even though they're eating those other things, if you put more of those things on the plate, more of the greens and what have you, it's going to start shifting some of those other things up, because you can't make people do anything. They're only going to move until they're ready. But you can meet them where they are, the things that are healthier, that they are already consuming. Give them information and insight and awareness of how those things work, so that they can better utilize those things as tools for health. In my book, what I talk about is increasing knowledge and awareness of things that you need, and don't even really have the conversation or minimize the conversation of the things that you don't. That way you shift the focus kind of organically without being pushy.
Okay.
Indeed, I definitely would
you.
second that based on what I've encountered. And the other piece is, having that conversation with people about, healthier habits, but also being the example is a very underrated kind of way to influence people. One of the things, like with me, and I've been vegetarian or plant-based in my eating habits for about the past 15 years now. When people see me walking around, I've had a couple people who look at me and they're like, wow, you look like the picture of health. Some people, I keep my beard and mustache on intentionally, for the past, like, probably about that same length of time, just so I look a little bit older, because when I cut this off, I look so young that people have a hard time taking me seriously as a health practitioner. So that is a concern of mine. So I always keep this on, to kind of allow people to view me as a little bit older than I am. And people still, when they meet, if they were to talk to me over the phone and they meet me in person, they like, oh, I thought you was like about 10 years older than you look. So that's a common thing that I get. So that in itself starts making people, when I speak or when you speak, when people see that you're utilizing this as a lifestyle and it's something that seems that's practical, is not difficult, and you look good, they can see changes that you've made if they've known you for a while, like that's a big influence. And how people start to even gradually gravitate towards things, and they'll start having those type of discussions with you more. Oh yeah, I went and got me some greens today. I got me some raw food today. I went and got this herb today, and they'll get your feedback on it. And then that becomes a thing where you can direct them to people who may know more, people who may be deeper into certain practices and things like that, to help people on a broader scale. I'm going to direct it over to Brother Oren. Oren, what are some things that you see as concerns?
Well, in my line of work, good brother, and very valuable information from the Breath Master and yourself, Dr. Yu, is this concept of Black men or men of color trying to get total wellness. I spend a lot of time working with young and older Black men that are dealing with multi-generational trauma and needs for greater healing in that trauma. There's some work that I teach in my class from Dr. Joy DeGruy about post-traumatic slave syndrome that implies that we never got healing from previous generations from our second visitation to this land. And so our Black men are constantly under attack, constantly have to fight that spiritually, physically. In my own personal journey, even doing the work, that's why I say I came here today as a student. You know, I'm 30 days into my plant-based diet. So you 15 years, I'm 30 days. And I've seen a lot of things change in my life. Like I just completed a 5K for the first time in my life, which was really big. And so I'm trying to walk in it as I try and support these people around this multi-generational healing that needs to occur, where people can learn who they are, how great they are, and be in the space of being present so that they can grow.
Indeed. I want to bring that over to Brother Manifest. Manifest, how would you respond to that?
Well, thank you, Brother Oren. Total wellness is the ideal, is what we all should cultivate and focus on. I know something that he spoke of is obviously movement into better eating habits and primary plant-based diet. One of the things that I'm very observant of is how how stress and how negative emotions contribute to the quality of our eating habits, our nutritional regimen. And so when people are constantly under attack in terms of their stress and just their mental approach to life, we all have, even you, Dr. You and Breath Master, and myself, you know, we've gravitated towards those comfort foods. And even they may be vegan comfort foods, but let's be honest now, you know, not everything in the health food store is healthy, you know? You know, so
indeed.
Some of the cakes and the pies and things, although it may not have animal products in it, it still has an excessive amount of sugar, gluten, all those kinds of things. So what I found many years ago, and how I really, how can I say it, moved into Qigong and mindfulness and energetic practices, I was looking to resolve my own imbalances, you know, my own inability to deal properly with stress, reduce stress, eliminate stress. And I found myself consistently eating those comfort foods, even though many of them were vegan, they still took a toll on my health because they weren't in a more live or raw state, or, you know, it was somewhat processed, if you will. So I would say it's tremendously important that every man, Black man in particular, has a modality or two strategies to help them cultivate a sense of inner peace and harmony and reduce stress. When we do that, then we make better choices. You know, we make better choices in terms of our physical workout regimens, how we eat, herbal supplements, our relationships. And so having, you know, breath work, Qigong, yoga practices, DNA practices, drumming, like you do, Dr. You, all are very therapeutic to help us purge and release the stress so that we can embrace the best version of ourselves. And when we are in that state of inner tranquility, we tend to eat better. we tend to make better decisions. We tend to realize, well, I'm not even hungry at all, so why am I even eating? You know, and just one of the things that I realized is once I really got into Qigong and mindfulness practices, I found myself eating less because a lot of the eating that I was doing prior to that was emotional eating, you know. And so I just wanted to add that, you know, every man, Black man in particular, must have some stress reduction strategies, so some energetic modalities that they incorporate into their daily regimen that help them with their overall wellness.
So, Brother Manifest, we have mentioned Qigong a few times. Can I ask you just to kind of briefly describe what Qigong is, and also, you know, how it may be able to help people with dealing with trauma and traumatic experiences?
Qi means energy, Gong means cultivation, energy cultivation. And didn't start with the Asians. They are well known, and I would even give them credit for developing probably the most sophisticated form of energy cultivation at this time relative to an overall diet, nutritional regimen. It is the cornerstone of traditional Chinese medicine, but again, I just want to emphasize that energy cultivation was going on long before in Africa and other indigenous areas in a very highly cultivated way. So breathing exercises, mindfulness exercises, gentle movements that actually enhance the breath, massage the inner organs, the vital organs, such as the kidney, the heart, the liver, gallbladder, all of those vital organs. And they also do 3 corrections. Those 3 corrections, again, are the breath work or refinement, the body, meaning the posture, as well as the internal makeup of the body, the vital organs, and the mind. And the mind is most important of the 3, because wherever the mind goes, the energy flows. And so Qigong is getting very similar to Tai Chi. Actually, Tai Chi is a form of Qigong. So to answer your question, in terms of trauma, much of our childhood trauma, past life trauma, real life trauma is imprinted into our vital organs. And so, for example, oftentimes women, they will develop fibroid issues and heart issues, breast issues. And when we look at those 2 areas of the body, excuse me, the fibroid is where any internalized, I need some water, but you got no water, Dr. You? But
Always.
But the internalizing, when women internalize trauma, oftentimes it can go into the fibroids or the uterine area, so to speak, or the breast, the heart, where they deal, 2 areas where they deal with a lot of their trauma. Same thing with men, prostate issues. Oftentimes we don't associate prostate issues with trauma. You know, the organ, prostate, the reproductive organ for the man, is where we express a lot of our inability to deal with trauma. We actually may have excessive sexual habits and things of that nature, where in Qigong terminology, we call that the Jing, the weakening of the sexual energy, if you will. So to answer your question, any routine, like the 6 healing sounds of Qigong, that actually purify and fortify the vital organs. Every organ, when we look at the word organ, we think of sound, playing a piano. Every organ is purified and fortified and attuned to a higher frequency based off of healing sound. So that's one of the best practices to release trauma, is through healing sounds, energy movement, specific to certain energy centers in the body and organs in the body, to release many, many, many years of stagnant energy.
Indeed. Thank you, Brother Manifest, for that. I'm going to turn it over to Master Reshep. We haven't heard much from Master Reshep today, but I want to, we spoke about a little bit the heart touch therapy earlier, and I want you to touch on that heart touch therapy and how that may help to address trauma and traumatic experiences and what that is.
Right on, right on. Give thanks, Doc. Yes. So first, what is heart touch therapy? HEART is an acronym, first of all. Like to suggest, it stands for Holistic, Energetic, Acusage, Reiki, and Tapping. And acusage is a combination of acupressure and massage. So within the name HEART, the acronym, there are actually 4 healing modalities that are being used: acupressure, Reiki, tapping, and massage, along with the breath, along with aromatherapy, incense oils, and along with sound therapy, music therapy, meditative music to set the mood. And the principle behind heart touch therapy, as the title suggests in and of itself, is therapy for the heart, meaning whatever the lower vibrating emotion may be, fear, worry, anger, sadness, grief, they all tend to have an effect on the heart. And when our heart is weighed by the heaviness of emotions, we all know how that can be. So what the heart touch therapy is an effective way to facilitate and assist with the releasing of stagnant energy from these organs through these modalities. Because as we all are familiar with, energy can kill, as they say, stress can kill. And the theory behind that, the principle behind that is densification, or just things just building up and getting heavier and heavier. For example, if we have one thought that's something that doesn't serve us, and if we think nothing else about it, all well and fine. It's somewhat of a fleeting thought, comes and goes, in and out, in one ear and not the other, as they say. However, if there's a thought that comes in one ear, not that the thought comes in the ear, but if the thought comes into the sphere of awareness and it doesn't leave right away, it kind of sits and it's not a high vibrating emotion, eventually we kind of feel a little drained, a little, okay, let me stop thinking about this because my energy is being lost, being weighed down. So much so over time, say after a day, a week, a month, years even, of having this thought not being released. Not only does it weigh us down physically, we begin to feel physical pain, like physical stuff, my knee, my back, things like this. So again, what the heart touch therapy does is a way to use these modalities, all these various modalities, which are excellent modalities in and of themselves. However, the heart touch therapy, my person had the idea of pulling the essence from each of these modalities and just saying, what's the principle behind this into one little package. And so when one sits down and simply breathes with the music and incense, and we go to tapping and acupressure and massaging, or these various points, the effect is simply a release of these stagnant energies from these various places that's causing stress, that's causing us an emotional cloudy of mind, emotional, whatever you can think of, physical pain, emotional, mental, and even spiritual. Whatever one is dealing with, the heart touch therapy is designed to facilitate balance and harmony in whatever area of the body one is dealing with. And so Master Aaron and I, Breath Master Aaron and I are looking to share this more with the brothers because it's a tool that we can work with. Not as much on ourselves, although some can be on ourselves. However, in the process of understanding what the heart touch therapy is and how it's to be utilized, there's a shift in oneself. Because as a heart touch therapist, the first heart touch therapy is on oneself. So as we work with someone else, there's this transformation. We're really becoming the conduit for higher vibrations of energy to come through us, through our own work as a heart touch therapy, so we can facilitate the shift in others as we touch their heart through, again, touching, tapping, acupressure in about a 45-minute session. So in a nutshell, that's what the heart touch therapy, and that's how it can facilitate change in our physical bodies, stress, things like this. So, yes.
Indeed. Thank you, Master Reshep. I'm one who has experienced the heart touch therapy a few times via Master Reshep, and I'll tell you, the amount of even energetic freedom that you feel in your body afterwards is amazing. And that kind of brings about the thought that a lot of men especially how much non-sexual touch do we tend to experience, given the fact that touch is considered to be a need, a necessity in terms of humanity, in terms of, our physical and emotional well-being. So I want to pose that question to DeAndre and to Brother Orrin Howard. I'm sure he can give a lot of insight on that, but I'm gonna ask to keep it brief. How much do you really think about non-sexual touch, and how much do you really experience it? Let's start with Brother DeAndre first.
Non-sexual touch, huh? I don't even really know. It's not something that I've really considered. Not something that I've really thought about. I mean, when you're interacting with your brothers, when you're interacting with your family, you think about how those kind of interactions are healing and they feel good. But when you're engaging with someone that you're intimate with, I don't know. You think about the affection piece of it, and that's separated from the sexuality of it. But to consider being touched or touching someone in a healing way, it's not something that I've been trained to consider and think about and invest in. So I'm interested in hearing more about that.
Thank you, Brother DeAndre. Brother Orrin, what's your thoughts on it?
When I was listening to Master Isha talk, I could only think of the conceptualization of a massage, right? Like you grow up thinking a massage is a treat. So the answer to the question is that non-sexual touch doesn't really happen for me. And that's something that I have to look at, honestly, look internally about, because when you start to consider, different things, Reiki as treats, special, something you could save up for, something you could do every once in a while, you overlook the need, like you said, Dr. Yu. And so that's something I think is important moving forward that I have to reconsider. So I appreciate that lesson. Same to you, Brother Master.
Thank you, Brother Orrin. Yeah, that's something even within myself and my own personal experience. It's something that I feel like once I'm in a relationship, I kind of crave that. But when it comes down to other men, that's not something that I tend to gravitate towards or have tended to gravitate towards in the past or felt comfortable with or even thought of as a particular need or desire in any way, shape, or form. But ultimately, I know that it is a human need to experience touch, in various ways. And even something as simple as a hug, makes a world of a difference. And one of the things that I love is that I'm starting to see more, especially the younger Black men, and some of the older Black men who have been through some things and are now more open emotionally, and they're not afraid to display that and to share that affection, with their fellow brothers, their friends, their sons, so on and so forth. So I think that's a very important thing. And, something that we need to get into more. I want to shout out my brother Jabari Exum. Not sure if he's tuning in or not, but he's another brother who we drum with in Baltimore community, originally from Washington, D.C. And he is a massage therapist in Baltimore and kind of utilizes some of that, that touch and that, kind of tapping type of modalities and things like that, in his practice. So big up to you for offering that up in Baltimore as well. I want to take the discussion to, since we have a few different...
Dr. Yu.
Yes.
Before you change the subject, I just want to piggyback off of something that you just said.
Sure thing.
In relationship to touch, thinking back, now that we're in this state of not being able to touch each other, I do actually know what it's like to long for that physical connection with someone that's not in a sexual way. Because when you go to someone that you know that's your friend and you want to touch them and they're like, back up, it hurts in a way. So, I mean, yeah, it is so healing when I think about it that way, not being able to engage with the people that you love over just a matter of months is hurtful. So, yeah, non-sexual touch is very important when I think about it in that light.
May I interject?
Yes. Oh.
Briefly. I believe in practicality. We're talking about a lot of things that we need to actually discuss, or at least visit opportunities such as this to mention that we can begin to put some things in place. Brother Orrin, if you haven't experienced heart touch, I suggest that you do it immediately, especially since you're in contact with people and you're in the mental health area. Because, and you talked about the whole generational trauma, you know, going back hundreds of years. Heart touch was given to a Black man to pass on to other Black men. He handed the baton to me. And I am extremely, extremely serious about putting this in the hands of as many and hopefully all Black men as possible. Because when you look at what heart touch does, it changes, it's an activator. It activates your God self. We walk around calling each other gods and this and that. We ain't acting like it, you know, but this activates your God self. Depending upon where you are, you got layers and layers and layers. So you got to peel back those layers, and heart touch will allow that to happen. Quick insight. I was in Baltimore and I did heart touch on the brother who was the uncle of Freddie Gray. Within, I think, 1 or 2 years after Freddie Gray had reached his demise. Within that same year, or shortly thereafter, this brother lost his own son. He came into the event and he was angry. He saw the big picture of Freddie Gray and what have you, and people are having fun and what have you. He was pissed off. He didn't act on that, but when he heard me talking about giving free heart touch sessions and how it relieves trauma, that brother made a beeline to that chair. When I finished him, he was like, man, I don't know what you did, bro, but them 15, 20 minutes were transformative. He said, I was ready to hurt something. He said, now I feel like going out here and offering assistance to the community. From an angry Black man to a benevolent Black man in 15 minutes. Bruh, we need to collaborate and put this in its proper perspective. We need as many Black men getting this. So we need to get together. We need to get together with Chef, and let's create something, because we need numbers. And I'm going to leave it at that.
I appreciate that. I definitely will follow up.
Thank you.
Very, very powerful, you know, and I'll attest to that, and I'll tell anybody that. But speaking about trauma, one of the things that we talk about with that is how it passes through generations. And, you know, generational connection. You know, one of the things I love about this broadcast here is we kind of have a generational connection on this broadcast. You know, we have somebody in their 20s, we have somebody in their 30s, and we have a few people in their 40s on this broadcast. You know, so what is the importance of generational connection, and do you feel like that's being achieved with Black men in this day and age? And let's start with, let's bring it back to Orrin Howard, then I'm going to go to DeAndre, and then we'll move it around the panel.
One of the most amazing things about our people, and I hate to sound biased, but we are the most resilient species on the face of this planet. And so our connection has always remained intact. I once went to a presentation and they talked about over in the Thurgood Marshall Center in Washington, D.C., and the brother talked about how long it takes for the sunlight to hit the earth, parallels with the amount of time it takes for blood to rush from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. And so that parallel and that connection has always been in place. We have been unplugged from our connection, and we have to figure out ways to get plugged back in. So for me, you know, just feeling the energy of this room from what you and the rest of the brothers are saying, I could see how you can get plugged back in. And so I'm looking forward to it. So to answer your question, I truly believe that we still remain somewhat connected but unplugged.
Very, very interesting perspective, and I would have to agree as well. Brother DeAndre, how do you feel about it?
I feel as though I'm in a very unique position. Most of the people that I interact with are significantly older than me, and that's intentional because I seek to learn a lot from the older men and women in my communities. So, you know, I do the apprenticeships with older men, and sitting in a situation like this, it's to be more knowledgeable about what to expect when I'm 30 and what to expect when I'm 40 and how to secure my destiny. So I feel like for the majority of people my age, that they're lacking that because they rely on each other to kind of like, oh, you know, you learn from your peers. But I think that there needs to be in the Black communities more older men really interacting with the younger generations. But they have, you know, we have to get the younger people to be open because there's this mentality that you want to be the king of your empire at a early age before you even know how to lead people. So I think that there needs to be more opportunities for apprenticeship and for these conversations to be available to those who don't even know that these things are happening. And that's how the community is healed.
I want to pose one question to you before I pass it over to Breath Master and Master Reshep.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you feel it takes for the younger generation, people your age and maybe a little younger, to be open or to be more open to receiving guidance and or constructive criticism from the older men?
It takes a personal connection with the younger generation. It takes interacting with men who have made you feel safe and that you feel love from. Because often when you have an older man who's trying to check you about something or trying to tell you something, the way in which it's brought to you it makes you think back to oh, you're not my father. We automatically go into this defensive mode when it comes to older men who are trying to teach us something. So I think outside of, you know, I want to teach this young man something, starting in the beginning of the relationship, it needs to be about just connecting and sharing, and then from that point, giving them something that they can walk away with, that they can pass to their generations. I don't think it should be from jump, all right, we're going to do this, this, and that, because we tend to reject that. I think that building a relationship, building that trust, and then investing inside of that young person is what will have will be fruitful for them and for the generations to follow.
Thank you for that insight. Master Reshep, let's go to you next. What's your thoughts on it?
Yes, sir. So from my personal experience with working with the youth group, Rites of Passage, facilitating, as well as even now recently have a house guest, a young 19-year-old brother. My personal experience, again, is about, like the brother was saying, building a relationship. My person realized that a lot of youth have been talked at for quite some time. And not only have they been talked at for quite some time, generally, who is doing the talking is not doing the walking. Generally speaking, it's about do as I say and not as I do, generally speaking. And so who wants to really listen to that, for real, for real? Just speaking about our own experiences growing up, we really gravitated to those, whether they directly spoke to us or whether they didn't, if they were the example. So my person is learning just being the example. It's not about, hey, looking to correct, because the conversation my person have is that the only difference between us, besides the age, is that maybe principles. My person has a little bit more understanding of principles because of their age. And so we're still looking to figure this thing out, because the same thing has happened to all of us, not being educated on, first of all, what is a so-called black man and what is a black man supposed to be doing? As I mentioned earlier about a god or a king, we come from kings, we come from royalty, we come from dynasties, we come from this and we come from that. If we come from that, then why are we not manifesting that? Because we all know how, the story goes. Nonetheless, here we are today in so-called 2020. So in 2020, it's about, young brother, my person's still looking to get together at the same time you are. So my person can't chastise you, come down on you too hard, because my person's looking to get his own shit together. In the meantime, how can we help each other based upon what's happening out here and what's going on over there? Just simply sharing our experience. And as my person listening to your experience from where you are, it's a better understanding from why it is you think and do what you do. And so it's about getting that relationship from my experiences and being just totally transparent. Hey, still growing, still learning. And this the areas right here. You see this conversation. This is what I'm working on right now. This is how I'm dealing with this in real time. So it's not about focusing on what you got to do, because you see my shit is messed up. So as long as I'm focusing on me, and from time to time, hey, how's it going? Just socialize. And if they see the example of working on self and looking to make a difference every day just with self, that my person has actually seen that making a difference in real time over here. So, that's what my person has to add to that.
Thank you. Breath Master, what's your insights?
Well, briefly, listening, and asking, how do you feel about whatever the situation may be? And then allowing the person to respond. Then give what it is you feel, making that heart connection. I find that, the whole thing of macho not talking about your feelings, that's so overrated and so passe and so just dumb. And it takes a long time for most of us to get out of that. It took me to get out of my 20s to get to that. I've been married with children and still not talking about my feelings. So getting into conversations with people about what's going on with them, you have to deal with their feelings. And you don't really have to deal with their feelings, but you have to allow them to express their feelings. And that right there is a deep, deep connection. You walk up, I was on a train one time with my son, who's now 41, back in his early teenage years. And I turned around, I looked at him, I said, how you feel, son? This European sister sitting 2 seats behind me. That one statement, she broke down crying. She said, I wish somebody had asked me how I felt when I was young. It's that type of a human connection, simply by asking somebody how they feel, that can transform everything. I can add a whole lot more, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
Thank you, Breath Master. Yeah, definitely a powerful thing. And I know you as a father, and I don't have biological children, but I've had a fatherhood experience as well in one of my previous relationships. And, with that, I think that's one of the reasons, even through whatever happened in a relationship, that when I interact with these young men today, there's still a level of respect and reverence, for me being open to listen to what it was that they had to offer in terms of emotional instances, even at early ages, came into their lives at the ages of 9 and 3 years old. And, just, going through my growing experiences and getting past the ways that I was brought up and things of that nature, but also learning to listen to them and value the feedback that they were giving me in terms of how they perceive me as a father figure. And, being able to take that constructive criticism, so to speak, and apply it, and them witness me at least attempting and aiming to do better and valuing them. And you can see their disposition change and the smiles on their faces and things of that nature. So, I think that's a very powerful piece. I want to close it out with Manifest Ra, because Manifest Ra is the founder of the SageMen organization. And one of the premises of the SageMen is to kind of form that generational connection, or to make it stronger, and to develop what we would say is the divine manifestation or embodiment of manhood. So Manifest, I want you to speak on that a bit, and maybe some of your experiences before we close it out.
Great question, Dr. Yu. And first and foremost, I just give thanks to the Creator and the ancestors and the saints, African deities, just for moving through you, Dr. Yu and Master Chef, for organizing this. And we give thanks. When we talk about intergenerational healing and evolution, we have to be mindful of the role of the elders, middle-aged men, as well as the young. The youth rather. And so I know Dr. Yu, as well as Breathmaster, have seen me often in Sage Men gatherings and retreats bring my dad. I make it a point. My dad is 76, Vietnam veteran, has had some challenges in terms of cognitive functions in his older age. But every time he comes, he benefits from the experience. And he adds, even if it's a few words or it's his presence. I've had brothers who were participants at the retreats say, man, as soon as they saw me bring my dad through the door, say, I respect that, man. I have so much respect for that. So we have to lead. We have to, what Breathmaster is doing, including his son in his breath modality work, heart touch work, and the health family businesses is an example. We have to give those examples as much as possible, because we can write books, we can theorize, philosophize on the importance of elders, on the importance of youth. But if it's something that we've simply written down in the journal or publication, and it's not, as Master Shep said, walking the walk, it's not going to go beyond the initial talk. So I would say, as often as possible, let's make sure we're including our elders, we're including our young in not only the conversation, but the organization, if you will. And so, everybody wants to be heard. The elders want, and when we think of indigenous traditions, we have what's called an oral tradition. Particularly in Africa, and I know you know about that, Dr. Yu and Master Shep and all of us here, where the elders, they, as often as possible, verbalized or brought forth all of the traditions and the historical accounts in the village. And so that has been continued. However, it needs to be upgraded, if you will. We've been around many elders in our community, and the first thing they do is when they see a brother that's not of their same age, is they want to talk to him. And sometimes they want to talk them to death. They don't necessarily want to talk them to life. They'll Master Chef, they'll talk to you for 20 minutes, and they won't even give you an opportunity to say 2 words. You just in listening mode. And we all know what those brothers are. I know the same thing with you, Brother Orrin and Brother Dukes as well. So we have to change that. There's a very special place for an elder. My dad, he's not necessarily into the energy flow and the Qigong, even though he got me into health and wellness. But, have his presence and being at those retreats. On the way home, we were driving home, he oftentimes would say some of the most insightful and profound messages that I didn't even know he was listening, but he was just sitting there listening and absorbing. And so I would say we have to include the elders, we have to include the youth, and we have to make sure everyone is heard, not talk at anyone, but talk with everyone.
Thank you, Brother Manifest Rod. We appreciate everybody on this broadcast. We're going to close it out as we have only a couple minutes remaining. But definitely, again, thank you all for tuning in first and foremost. To everybody who's tuning into this broadcast. Share it, far and wide, because we definitely need these messages and this conversation heard and had more often. And again, we are the Collective Health Initiative, myself, Master Chef. We have Fon, Precious, Porter, Precious Mother Love, Clarice Manning, Kat Nunefa, and Mommy Lane Williams, who hold the Health Class You Never Had broadcast every Monday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can tune in. Our topic for next week will be We Breathe 4, talking about the importance of not only breathing, but also how to deal with the stress and things like that going on with this whole situation socially that we're dealing with, whether it be the protests, whether it be the COVID situation, and you know, all of the other things that come along with that. So tune in next week for that. You know, again, I want to thank you, Breath Master, Brother Manifest Ra, Master Rashep, of course, you know, co-founder of the Chi, Brother Oren and Brother DeAndre, our guests for today. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us in this conversation. And definitely look for their information in the comments as well. Keep in contact with these brothers. They're all doing some wonderful things in their respective circles. And any closing word that anybody wants to have before we close out?
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, give thanks for flowing with the chi. Tune in next week. Same chi time, same chi place.
Yes, indeed. So thank y'all again, and we'll be in contact, everybody on here.
Oh, Facebook Collective Health Initiative Group. If you haven't joined the group, become a member of the group. It's a way of actually, you know, getting more of the resources there on our group page. So Collective Health Initiative Group on Facebook. All right.
Yes, indeed. So with that, we are out of here. Peace and blessings, everyone.